The Dark Knight Rises is one of the most culturally significant anime films of all time. It's a movie so important that even the President of the United States gave it a review.
Last night, I went to the opening of The Dark Knight Rises, which is commonly known as the Batman movie. And I'll tell you, it was really terrific. But what was really amazing was the fact that the cinematography, what they did was incredible. You couldn't have done it 3 years ago. You couldn't have done it 2 years ago. The technology was amazing. The movie is really worthwhile seeing. And most importantly, Trump Tower, my building, plays a role.
The film is most famous for its legendary opening scene, featuring the most tragic protagonist in anime history, a man named CIA. Although he only appears for one brief scene, CIA won the hearts of anime fans worldwide with his confident poses, brilliant flight plans, and the thoughtfulness to compliment another man about his stature.
You're a big guy.
For you.
For years now, people have debated the true meaning of this scene. Much like the greatest plays of Shakespeare, nearly every single line of dialogue has multiple meanings that enrich the narrative to the point where it can be understood on a myriad of levels. Why would somebody shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane? Why does Dr. Pavel claim that he said nothing when earlier in the scene he claimed that Bane and Wreckage Brother weren't his friends? Was getting caught actually a part of Bane's plan? These questions, of course, have no true answers, as the director, Christopher Miyazaki, intentionally made this scene as convoluted and ambiguous as possible. The plane scene of The Dark Knight Rises was meant to be a distraction, like a Trojan horse, so that the rest of the movie could be used for malicious purposes. The Jews collaborated with the Japanese government to produce this film so that it would cause 5 massacres to happen, and I will go through each one of them now. Number 5. James Holmes and the Aurora Theater shooting. The first and most obvious massacre on this list is the Aurora Theater shooting that took place during the midnight release of The Dark Knight Rises. A man named James Holmes entered the theater with canisters of tear gas and multiple firearms. According to Wikipedia, about 12 people were killed in the shooting. The reason why it says about 12 people is because 4 of the victims were women, and they don't count as a full person because they have no hearts. The true tragedy about this massacre isn't the fact that many of the victims were young children, but that so many people had to die watching The Dark Knight Rises. The shooting reportedly took place approximately 30 minutes into the film, which means that one of the last things those people ever saw was,
If I pull that off, will you die?
It would be extremely painful.
You're a big guy.
For you.
Ironically, the film was so shit that many audience members wished that a crazed gunman would shoot them in the head. The Aurora shooting is the second most brutal attack to take place in a theater, the first being when the cast of Hamilton berated Mike Pence. Additionally, this attack was the second worst thing to happen involving somebody dressed as the Joker. This massacre, much like the Elliot Rodger massacre, was orchestrated as an excuse to increase gun control regulations in order to weaken the power of American civilians. This, of course, is a crucial step in the Jews' master plan. Number 4. The Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. The Sandy Hook shooting was the worst thing to happen in an elementary school since desegregation. On December 14th, 2012, just 5 months after the theatrical release of The Dark Knight Rises, a young man named Adam Lanza entered the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, loaded with a semi-automatic rifle. Adam Lanza then went through 20 kids in the span of only 5 minutes, a record broken only by my Uncle Alex. This attack made history, as it was the first and only time that Obama appeared to be upset about dead children. Now you're probably wondering, Mumkey, how the fuck was this massacre caused by the Dark Knight Rises? Well, it's very simple. The film contained a subliminal message that instructed Adam Lanza to attack the school. The attack happened at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Approximately an hour and 20 minutes into The Dark Knight Rises, there is a scene where Commissioner Gordon and his men are planning an attack on Bane's henchmen, and he places his hand over a section of the Gotham City map that very clearly says Sandy Hook. This is the only time in the history of Batman media that Gotham City has included an area called Sandy Hook. Clearly, this subliminal message about an attack on Sandy Hook was implanted in order to brainwash Adam Lanza into committing an attack at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Number 3. Lay Bane. Every once in a while, fiction bleeds into reality, and the two become indistinguishable from one another. On March 24th, 2015, the pilot of a Germanwings flight purposely crashed his passenger plane into the French Alps, and there were no survivors. He did this, of course, because he was brainwashed by the plane scene of The Dark Knight Rises. There are just too many coincidences here, and I will go through all of them. The most obvious connection is that this crash happened in Lay Bane, and the main hero of The Dark Knight Rises was Bane. In the film, Bane crashed CIA's plane with no survivors. The flight number of the Lay Bane massacre was 4U9525.
For you.
It seems clear that this pilot was heavily influenced by the scene, and these influences affected his personality. The day after the crash, one of the pilot's friends was interviewed, and this is what he had to say. He had a lot of loyalty for a hired pilot.
A lot of loyalty for a hired gun!
And was a big guy for his family and friends.
You're a big guy.
I don't know what God has in store for Andreas, but I hope it fits his master plan, which Andreas was always getting caught in.
Was getting caught part of your plan?
Of course.
It's a shame that this one time he didn't fly so good.
He didn't fly so good!
Rest in peace, Andreas. Hopefully you'll get to bring friends wherever you are.
You don't get to bring friends.
The Jews, of course, likely planned this plane crash as a means to create the fear of air travel within the masses so that when the time came that the Jews abandoned the Earth to live on Mars, the people would be too afraid to follow them out of fear that the pilot would crash the rocket ship with no survivors. Number 2.
Hold it right there, Mumkey.
Biggs, what the fuck are you doing here?
You said too much, Mumkey. They sent me to eliminate you.
Biggs, you're working for the Jews? But what about all the good times we shared together?
Sorry, Mumkey. We used to be friends, but the Jews made me a deal. You've gotta go.
It's time to choose your own ending. If you want Mumkey to die, click the video annotation on the left. If you want Mumkey to escape with his life, click the video annotation on the right.